Hi, I'm Garcelle Beauvais, and you are watching the whole podcast.
Welcome to the whole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.
And we are joined by Garcelle Beauvais, who has a new book coming out called Love Me As I Am. And Garcelle, I was thinking about this a little bit before we started. For someone who's already, an open book in so many ways and so honest and just never really holds back in anything, do you still have more to put in that book? There's so much that we already know about you. So I'm excited to see what else you have and, what made you decide to write a book.
Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm happy to be here. It just felt like a good time. I'm in a good place personally and professionally, and I've made some peace with some things in my past, and it felt like it was a good time to share. And yes, I have lots of stories.
Well, I'm sure because you started modeling so young, and got in. I won't say the business, but let's face it, it's not a normal. It's not a normal way to go into your teens and your early 20s. It's not a normal lifestyle. But I've seen you many times comment that you don't see it as a bad thing when you were modeling. Like a lot of models reflect back, oh, it was terrible, and you have a completely different outlook on it.
Totally. Listen, it's all relative. I come from Haiti. I didn't even know you could model, for a profession. I had no idea. So when I got to, at 17 years old, traveling, making money, taking pictures, how bad is
that? I know, it's so true. So what age did you start actually modeling? I know you came over when you were 7 years old, right? Or something like that?
Very 7. Young. And I moved to New York at the age of 17. Mm-hmm. I moved to New York at the age of 17, and I lived with Eileen Ford for the first month because the model's apartment was full. And then I moved into the model's apartment, would go on go-sees, and I just couldn't believe, first of all, in New York City at 17 by myself. I'm a parent now. No way would I let my kids go.
I know. Well, as two New Yorkers, I totally understand.
But just that month living with Eileen Ford, that's a book on its own, I think.
Hello, exactly, Lori, exactly. Going from not knowing anything about the modeling world to then being thrust into the most elite, one of the most elite agencies in the world. It was really, I don't even think I grasped it. I just thought, oh, I'm doing something new. I really don't think I understood the full impact of it all. But it was a great experience, and she was awesome and strict and, all the things that, you've heard in the past. And but it was great. It gave me a start to my career.
So how does that happen? Is it something that you decided you wanted to do even at that young age, or does someone come and go, you've got the look, like, maybe sound a little cliche, but like,
you've seen too many movies.
Way too many.
No, we moved from Massachusetts to Miami, and I started going to school there. And a friend of mine said, "Do you want to be an extra in a orange juice commercial?" And I was like, "What's an extra?" And he told me, and it was $75 a day, which was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and they had like a few principal actors, and one of them was this really pretty black girl. So by the end of the second day, I got up the courage to go up to her, and I said, "I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that?" And she wasn't having any of it. So, she was like, "Get out, girl, bye." And so I found out what agency she was with. And I asked my mom to borrow her car, and it was in Fort Lauderdale. And I was driving to Fort Lauderdale. I didn't have any pictures. I didn't have an appointment. I didn't have anything. I didn't know how it worked. But I thought I should go in and ask. So as I'm driving, I stop at a red light. I poke my head out the window to check my makeup. I decide that I'm getting lip gloss. So as I'm reaching for my lip gloss, a hand comes in the car and scares the hell out of me. Oh. And it was the woman at the stoplight behind me. She saw when I poked my head out. She had a card. She said, "You should be a model." and it was the agency that I was actually going to.
Wow, no way. And see, I didn't see too many movies because it did happen.
You're right. Actually, I take that
back. Hey, you're in a lot of them that I saw. So, that's
yeah, I mean, crazy, right? You can't make that up.
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely had that look. I mean, how much I remember seeing, and I would never do this to you now and play it, but I remember even back then that Star Search, like you were on that Star Search show where they would have a model section and they would have like a comedian section.
Yeah.
Was that your first experience with television at all?
Yes, I knew nothing whatsoever, and Ed McMahon could never say my name right. Garcelle Beauvais. Yeah, that was. I mean, so many people came out of Star Search. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew they had a segment for models, and I thought, okay, let's try this.
Yeah, and then what's more impressive is it's not easy at all. First of all, to make it as a model, but then to start to transition into acting and everything else that goes along with that. And, from what I saw, you started with some really great shows. I mean, The Cosby Show was one of the first ones that you've ever been on. And everything else aside, it's one of the most legendary shows. And at the time, it was huge.
Oh, my God. It was so huge.
Yeah, huge. So not only how do you wind up with that, but like how do you not get terrified before? I
was terrified all the time. I think what it was is like, what did I have to lose? I just felt like the reason why I'm in America is to take opportunities. So I felt like not that I had to, but I wanted to. I wanted to do as much as I could so that, I took the opportunities that were afforded to me. So I did a small part of The Cosby Show. I did Miami Vice. I did a music video with Michael Mann. He was the director. Of course, I didn't know Michael Mann was, and it was for a music video with Peter Wolf. And I remember them asking me, I was going to play his love interest, and do I know how to drive? And I said, absolutely, I know how to drive. No problem. Like when you're being casted for anything. Yeah, I can ride a class. I can jump out of a plane. And so I said, yes, I can drive a car. So at the end of the night, where it's a night shoot and it's supposed to be raining, and they brought out this beautiful Ferrari, and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And I got in the car and it was a stick shift, and no one asked me if I could drive a stick shift. They were beside themselves. They rented this car. The people are waiting. So they ended up towing the car, and I pretended I was driving it.
Yeah, well, if when I learned on a stick shift, it's not something you want filmed. It's the most frustrating experience until you get it. Yeah, so it's exactly like I definitely destroyed that stick shift when I learned on it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so I totally get that. But you early on still, and this seemed like a nice blend of the modeling and the acting is, you do a film, your first film, Coming to America, which, you also got to do the second one as well. But, as the infamous Rose Petal Girls from Coming to America, was that your first film and movie set?
Oh, yeah, that was my first movie set. I didn't know anything from like action and rolling and hitting your mark. I knew nothing. But they were looking for, beautiful girls. I went and met John Landis, and I was modeling, obviously, at the time. And he called my agent and said, she really wants to be in the business, and she should, she'll get great experience being on set. And therefore, I said yes. And we shot for I think 2.5 months in New York. We came out to LA for like a week or so. And then 30-something years later, there's a sequel. I mean, who would have thought? No one knew. I'm sure no one knew that this movie was going to be so iconic and so loved. It's incredible.
Of course. Now, so when you're literally in the opening scene of the movie, no less. That's your first. I believe, if I remember, he's in the bed, the prince, and of course played by Eddie Murphy, and so. You do your first television show is Cosby Show, and your first film is Coming to America. That's a real good way to start.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. There was no strategy. It was just take what jobs that are offered to you, though.
Understood. Now, so what's it like working with Eddie? I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but he seems like a much more down to earth person than people give him credit for.
He's really great. And you know what? I think when people meet comedians, they expect, the da-da, the whole spiel. And he's very quiet. He's very quiet. He's very reserved. But when action is called, then he turns it on. It's really fascinating to watch. But you would think he would be, so outlandish because of the things that he got to play, the roles that he was playing.
Yeah.
But when we were shooting Coming to America, the first one, and I remember walking out of the trailer, coming right out of the makeup, and there was an old white man, and he was like, and I was like, who is this guy? And it wasn't until I walked away, somebody goes, that was Eddie. He was in prosthetic. I was like, what?
Oh, from the barbershop scene,
the
right?
barbershop guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool. So now when they're doing the second one, do you find out, when do you find out? Do you know and you have to stay quiet until they announce it? Or
well, I had heard about it, and I'm like, I'm waiting by the phone. What am I had heard it was in development, so I was waiting. And then when they sent me the script and I was reading it, and they said in the beginning, it said something like, and the Rose Bearer Priestess, a la Garcelle Beauvais. And I was like, well, she's still here.
Yeah, why? A la.
Hello. So it was great. I mean, it was great to go to Atlanta and shoot and see Eddie and Arsenio. And, most of the cast, it was really, really cool. We shot at Rick Ross's house, which is like a house.
Wow, really?
I never knew that.
Wow.
Oh, he has the biggest pool, I believe, in North America. There were, how like at night where there's flashing lights, there's R's in his, double R's in the grass. I mean, it was just so opulent and so insane.
Right.
And I guess it was Holyfield's home, and then Rick Ross bought it from him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I would look at that and be like, I want some R's in my pool. I could get to that point.
Yeah.
So all of those palace scenes are just that house?
Yeah, a lot of it was his house. It was unbelievable. And then we shot some at Tyler Perry's studio.
I was going to say, and then they probably moved over to Tyler Perry's, like the two men of Atlanta.
You're right. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
That's wild. And then, you get a sitcom next, and it's a big one. It's the Jamie Foxx show, one of the most talented and funniest people out there for years and years. And I think at this time, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's just coming off Live in Color, right? Which, was a phenomenon in itself. But this is something where you've done over 100 episodes, syndication. Well done. So what adjustments do you have to make? So now, I mean, we're talking about full-blown speaking roles, studio audience. Yeah. How do you adjust to that? Like, what adjustments did you make to try to
a lot of adjustments. First of all, we would, when I got to LA, I started taking classes at the Groundlings. Everybody was talking about the Groundlings, and I'm like, let me do it. And, people suggested improv is a great way to get into it. I didn't realize that doing that, taking those classes would help me when I started working with Jamie. Because what happens is we would rehearse during the week. And then when they filled in, the day we tape with the audience, he would get so high from the audience, being a comedian and all that he would change lines. He would try different things. So you literally had to stay on your toes, because your cue, what you thought your cue was all week, is no longer your cue.
Right.
And you just had to sort of dance with him. But I only knew him from In Living Color. I knew that he did stand up, but I didn't really know him. Obviously, he was just coming up. But we had a piano on stage, and he would sit down on the piano and he would play the most incredible music. He would mimic Ray Charles and ended up winning an Oscar for that. He would mimic Stevie Wonder. I mean, it was just like, who is this guy?
Yeah, incredible. And I know that you two have become incredibly close friends, over the years. And it's kind of good to see someone like Jamie succeed, because he, again, just seemed like just a good-hearted person, and another one who's down to earth. And I can't, understand how you can be that way, especially when you hit so early and you make it so at such a young age, it's got to be a bigger challenge than anything else, is just to stay level, because especially the stardom levels that they hit, it's crazy, because everywhere you go, somebody wants a piece of you.
Yeah, no, it's really crazy. And it was great to see him like grow into a man, into a dad, and just see all the things that he's been able to do. It was really great to watch, because at first, obviously he was all over the place. We would rehearse for 4 days. He would go off all over the country to do stand up and then come back on Mondays for work. And just to see where he was and where he is now, it's I'm pretty proud of him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, just the thing. So another show that you were involved in, I love going through these, because I'm so impressed by this resume of great shows. Another one, NYPD Blue, like a legendary show, and one that this is pre-Netflix. This is pre-streaming, and maybe HBO has 2 shows. This was a network show that was known to really push the envelope in a lot of ways. Like, at the first nude scene on network television, unfortunately we got Dennis Franz, but it was still a nude scene nonetheless. Yeah. So being from New York, as we both are too, you probably got to channel a lot of that New Yorker in you a lot. It was
really cool and fun. And the thing that was hard for this show for me, because coming off, doing the Jamie Foxx show where it was like improv, you could do whatever, you could change lines. And then coming to NYPD Blue, they were married to every word on the script. Mm-hmm. You couldn't change to a the. I mean, that was like the challenge for me, coming from something that was so loose to something that was so, regimented, I guess, for a lack of a better word. But I mean, the people that I got to work with and the directors that came in, and it was pretty phenomenal. We once had Gwyneth Paltrow's brother, he's directing, and he comes in and he's great and he's directing. And at one point, it's me and Dennis Franz. We're about to walk into the precinct, and I look past the director, past the camera, and I go, "Is that Steven Spielberg?" And they're like, "And action." And I'm like, what? Like, who wants to work in front of Steven Spielberg? Like, you had the most incredible directors and actors coming in through that door. It was really phenomenal. It was also great for my career, doing comedy, where people sort of like pigeon you if you do something for a long time, like 100 episodes, and then to go to NYPD Blue. I think that really helped me, because it was so different that people took that show seriously. So if you were on that show, that meant you could act.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just one of those shows that will just always be something that people will go back and watch.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, because while for a little while it may have looked dated, now it looks like a period show if you watch it now. Like,
that's true. That's true.
You still get that feel to it.
Yeah.
One thing that you did that I would love to talk about is, I also saw that you did an issue of Playboy at one point. Don't worry, no pictures.
Of course, that's what Rob wants to discuss right now.
No, because I always get fascinated with that part too, because all everyone ever sees is the magazine come out, but we don't see the part where, do you get the offer? Do you have to really think about whether or not it's something you want to do, and everything that goes along with that? Like, how does that process work?
That process is not, first of all, you're flattered, because, like, come on, it's Playboy. It's, you know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's discreet. And then they tell you, you get to choose, the photographer, location. They were like, we can shoot it anywhere in the world. So me and my glam team were like, should we go to Africa? Should we go to Australia? Should we go to Switzerland? And at the time, I was trying to get pregnant and doing infertility treatment, so I couldn't be away from my doctor. So we shot it in Long Beach.
Oh, well.
It's not as glamorous as Africa or Australia, but
No.
But they have good tacos, so.
They have good tacos, exactly. But it was, obviously something that I had to talk to my husband at the time and my family. And, I decided to show my top only. And the pictures were really beautiful. And it's to be asked to be on the cover, especially as a Black woman, that's a big deal because that doesn't come along every day. And I wanted to make sure that it stayed, tasteful. And, I had a son, which he told me years later, he goes, Mom, I got into a lot of fights because of that Playboy.
Yeah, but it's all right. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Yeah. So do you wind up do you go as like part of that, do they take you to the mansion and all of that stuff? Or
I went to the mansion once because I had to see it. There was a big party there. And listen, it's so iconic that I could not, I was looking like a kid in a candy store because I had never seen a house that big. I had never seen, there were beautiful people left and right. I mean, my God. Yeah. And there was, Hugh Hefner doing the Hugh Hefner thing.
Yeah, just walking around with a robe and saying hello to people.
Exactly. It was surreal.
That's very cool. And, I definitely want to get to, because I'll be beaten alive if I don't bring up the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills by the listeners. So, that's another thing to me that seems like when that offer comes to you, is definitely something that's unorthodox and definitely something where you have to take a minute and pause and say, well, wait a minute, is this something I want to be part of or not? I mean, it's been tremendous for you as well. And more and more people know about who you really are versus the characters that you play. Yes. Is that something you had to weigh to think about doing or not?
For sure. For so many reasons. On my team, when they called me, they were like, Beverly Hills is interested in you, but we're going to pass. I'm just telling you because you know a lot of people. And I was like, hold on. Let me think about it. And they were like, no, we don't think this is a good idea. And I was like, give me a few days. And I really thought about it. And one of the I thought about it. I talked to my ex-husband because obviously my kids would be on the show. I talked to the boys as well and friends. And the thing that really swayed me into doing it is staying in LA. Because so many of the projects that I had been doing were in Atlanta, were in Vancouver, were, elsewhere. And I really wanted to be home. My boys were getting at an age that I wanted to be around them, and they were going to middle school. And the timing felt right. I was a fan of the franchise. Obviously, I have friends on the show. Right. But let me tell you, it was the scariest thing ever to know that cameras are going to be in your house. They're going to be in your car. Mm-hmm. Everything that you do is under a microscope. And what I found to be the hardest thing is after we shoot it. Because after we shoot it, we get to see it. You get to see what the other women are saying. And then the world weighs in. And that's a whole other thing on top of everything.
Right. Yeah. Now everyone has an opinion on who you are, what you do, what you say.
How you raise your kids, everything.
Everything. And their team this person, their team that person. And I never even realized that no matter what I say, even in jest becomes a headline for the next day. And then the girls take it a certain way. So it's tough, but it's also fun and glamorous. And, we do it. And we put ourselves out there. And I wish we got credit for, I think, we're women, we have businesses, we're doing things. And I wish people would focus on that too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you mentioned the cameras being in your house, and so do you set these guidelines, like these are the hours that they can be there, these are the hours that can be with you, and these are the hours where you need to be left alone? How does that work?
No, they pretty much you tell them what you have going on for months at a time, and then they decide what they come and follow. But they'll say so and so is coming to your house for a couple of hours, and it's usually like 4 hours, but it depends. It really depends. What I find a hard time with is when they camera my car, and when they take the cameras out, I'm always like, is there an extra camera left in here?
I would never talk.
I know.
I'll talk to you when I get home.
Right, exactly. Or I play really loud music and I'm like, they're not buying this song, so I'm good.
You have to subconsciously though, be aware of that. And you're the kind of person, like I said when we started, you're very open, you're very honest. You say
she's
what
very
you think.
Authentic. If you watch The Housewives, I think you're the realist.
Yeah. I don't think you're the, you don't seem like the type that would put it on for the camera, but there's the other side of that though. There must be times where you're doing the opposite, where you're like, I better be careful what I say here, or so people don't misinterpret it, or the other teams don't get mad at me. Like, do you have does that happen? Are you always conscious of it, or after a few minutes do you forget that they're even there?
After a few minutes, between the alcohol and the stealth bombers of the cameramen, because you forget they're there, it's tough. And I think for me, what's interesting is that, people go, oh, did you come in with a storyline? You can't really have a storyline because there are like 7 other people involved, and you can't control what they're going to say, what they're going to do. So do you know what I mean? It's almost another way of improv. You don't know what's going to come out of their mouth. You don't know what they're going to, throw you under the bus for. So you just have to be open. And if you're mad in the scene, you're mad at the scene, but you forget the cameras are there and there's a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
The funniest thing was, I just saw you stop following Erica Jane on Instagram, and people, this blew up. This was a huge thing.
It was breaking news, Lori.
And Garcelle was so funny. She's like, "Why is this news?"
Who cares?
I just want to follow somebody.
You could have muted her, and I was like, I couldn't find my mute button, but I wanted her to know that I blocked her because I didn't want to see her.
Yeah, Lori blocked me years ago. There's
no need to have to see anything. Yeah. It's fine, but it didn't make any news.
Right. And then, so you probably have a lot of strangers come up to you and be like, when you said this, I didn't like that. To like almost feel like they're on the show with you.
People are so invested. I've never seen anything like it. I remember I did an interview from home because we were all, COVID and all. And they were like, where's the fish in the back that was in your vase? Now you have flowers. I'm like, who's paying attention to that? By the way, died. Dorit.
Yeah. Yeah, then there's all hashtags about where's the fish.
Right.
It's the whole thing.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I know we don't have tons of time, but I do want to touch on your podcast, which I think is excellent, which is called Going to Bed with Garcelle. A great name, first of all.
Thank you.
And secondly, it's it's you having conversations with a lot of different women. I love the Stormy Daniels one. That was just like, you could tell like there were so many things that you wanted to ask.
My God, you're right. You're so right. She was great, and she was, really open and cool, and it was actually nice. I said, "Can we talk about the orange elephant in the room?"
Right. I know, that was great. That was great, and she came in guns blazing on that, just started going right away. But you could tell like a couple of times that you definitely wanted to get in there and ask it deeper questions, and I'm thinking, oh, ask that. And then you did. And I was like, okay, good. Because sometimes as a listener, you're going on that same track where you
exactly
think about it. I strongly encourage everyone to check out Garcelle's book, Love Me As I Am, which is out now. You can get it everywhere you get books, and she also did an audio version of it as well. So check it out, purchase it right now. She's got some great stories, as you can tell. So you can only imagine what's coming.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for watching The Whole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Laura Levine.
Later, motherfucks.